Green flag pit stops taking place. Second place, Ryan Truex. Doc.
A little bit overheating for Ryan Truex. They had to get some tape off the front. They also had a lot of rubber buildup. You heard Tim Brewer talking about how the rubber built up. They were showing some temperature in both the oil and water. Air pressure change. He was sliding a nose. What a great effort from the 18-year-old and only his second ever start in this series.
But we have completed 36 of the 125 scheduled laps, all under green flag conditions. Leading all those laps is that man right there, last year's race winner, Brad Keselowski. Jason Leffler has now inherited and actually took second place. And now we can tell you that Trevor Bayne is on pit road as well. Here he comes, Dave.
Marty, he worked his way up to the 6th position from that 8th place starting spot. At the beginning of the run, he said that his car was tight, wanted to push toward that outside wall. At the end of the run, he said we couldn't be much more balanced than it is right now. So crew chief Jerry Baxter going to give him just a slight air pressure adjustment, try to make it better at the start of the run. Mike?
And Brian Scott had been complaining early in this run that the car was a little bit aero tight. They're going to try to free him up with air pressure. No significant chassis adjustment on the 11 cars. They swing around to 11 and finish their pit stop, Dave.
Leader Brad Keselowski on pit road. All during this run, a little free in and off of the corner, tight in the center of the corner. So they will make a 4-tire change, and they will make a slight air pressure adjustment for Keselowski.
You saw the 18 of Kyle Busch also getting 4 fresh tires. He's pitted at pit in. Here's pit out. Keselowski easily gets back out in front. And there you see the damage on the right side of the 12 after Allgaier has brushed the wall. Dave?
Justin's car during this run very tight at the beginning and then loose to the middle and tight off of the corner. They're going to make a chassis adjustment on that car. It was a track bar.
There's the 38 of Jason Leffler. He's been running in the top 3 throughout the course of these early stages of the race. Says the car's pretty good. A little bit snug on entry and a little free on exit, but otherwise fine. 4 tires and a slight air pressure adjustment. Dave?
Vince Joey Logano had been running 9th. And to your discussion earlier, guys, about which way the cars would go, first it was tight, 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 and then he said, surprisingly, it's gone freer. Now at the end of the run, it went back to tight again. So they'll adjust on this car. He's been trying to save that right front so that he didn't have any issues with it.
I can tell you the 70th Shelby Howard is also in. Here comes Paul Menard, who had inherited the race lead. He's our 3rd different leader. Leffler led for 1 lap. Carl Edwards coming down pit road right behind him. Remember, speed 55 miles an hour. Mike?
And the car has changed for Carl Edwards. At the beginning of the run, he was saying he was free on entry, but toward the end of the run, he said the entry was okay. What the problem is now with the 60 car, a little bit tight on throttle. They're going to make a 4-tire change on that car. Also a chassis adjustment, trying to get that car a little bit more to Carl's liking and trying to get him so that he can get back on the throttle as quickly as possible and remove that tight condition. Dave?
Ricky Stenhouse started this race 6th. He fell back to the 11th position as we have a gas can stuck, I believe, in the 33. Stenhouse is in now. They'll get a 4-tire change for a car that was a little free in and tight from the center off. It'll be a track bar adjustment for Stenhouse.
Now we'll wait to see what happens as far as a penalty, because the can actually did fall off of the car and got outside the box. So we'll wait for NASCAR's interpretation. Here comes Colin Brown, Mike.
And Colin Brown pretty happy with his race car, saying it was pretty secure for the most part. Needs to be freed up center off, however. They're going to make a wedge adjustment on that race car. 4 tires and fuel for Colin Brown and the 16 team. They've been having a pretty solid run so far, but just not where they want it. They need to make that just a little bit better. They're away.
There's Mike Wallace as he comes in. Let's go over the wall.
Going down on air, off right side.
Well, we apologize for Rick's language. Obviously frustrated because he had 2 mistakes on the tires there. Meanwhile, the action on the 88, Doc.
Elliott Sadler 1 round down the track bar. Elliott saying they cannot get the car to turn, coming off the corner to get it down off the wall. Made an adjustment here, 4 tires, and topped it off with Sunoco fuel.
Well, quite a number of stops that we saw with mistakes. I mean, Carl Edwards, they had a 19-second pit stop. Pass-through penalty for the 33 because of the fuel can that got outside the box. And so that's going to hurt Kevin Harvick. And the guy who has inherited the race lead again after the cycling is Brad Keselowski. Let's go back, show you what happened on the 33.
Well, the pit crew feeling some pressure under this green flag stop to get going, and they still have that gas can. You can see the gas man hangs on to it as long as he can, but it just got caught, and that always draws a penalty. And I hope he's okay there.
Hard, outside, light.
No report. There he was as he picked it up, so he apparently is okay.
Well, one thing I see right there, that can looks awful heavy, and they made a full green flag run. You would expect those cans to be almost empty. I'm just wondering if they didn't have some kind of problem getting fuel in the car.
Danica Patrick goes 3 laps down now as Brad Keselowski came in with a 4.6 second lead. He now has a 5.9 second lead over Ryan Truex here at the Carfax 250. Hey, Verizon Wireless customers, text Champion to 43776 for exclusive Champion chats. It's content from our NASCAR Now Roundtable of Experts. And back here, we have been lean, mean, and green, completing 47 of the 125 laps so far. We've had 5 different leaders, but that man has led 43 of those laps. But right behind him, Jason Leffler and Ryan Truex are having a heck of a battle for second place. Truex came out after the pit stops with the second position. They're about 8.7 seconds behind. There they are. But now Leffler has just gotten around, and here comes Paul Menard into the mix. Andy?
Well, you can see right here the pit crew for Ryan Truex doing an excellent job. 14.4, doing a really good job to keep him in contention. And he's still racing some really good cars here on the racetrack.
Yeah, now it's going to be interesting to see this young man, his first time at Michigan, how he was going to be as far as getting on and off of pit road. And he really did an okay job. He lost a little bit of time, but his pit crew picked him up, and that's what it's all about, teamwork. He ended up not losing much time at all on that first time with a green flag stop.
And we should point out Pat Tryson and the guys, Martin Truex, his older brother, they're all down there helping. And so let's listen to the 00 radio.
Why do I always stall these? I don't understand it. Got to keep the RPMs up. Probably my fault for not telling you, but you got to keep the RPMs a lot higher when you're trying to leave out of here. There's a lot of bites in this racetrack.
Yeah, that probably, a lot of that driver time that we saw was probably a lot of that with him either stalling or almost stalling the car. And with these tapered spacers, you really have to keep the RPMs up because you run such a high rear end gear. So just another learning experience there.
Best battle on the racetrack. There it is, second, third, and although Ryan Truex started to lose a little bit of ground to the 2 guys in front of him.
Well, Paul Menard's on the move. You can see him right here making the move on Leffler. He's been running lap times as faster than the 22 car, Brad Keselowski. So looks like we may have a challenger now for Brad Keselowski out of this second group of cars. Looks like it's Paul Menard.
Yeah, we saw Paul Menard and Carl Edwards, who had been battling on the racetrack, come into pit road basically the same time, maybe a car length apart, and he's now 7 seconds ahead of Carl Edwards, who had a pretty slow pit stop. They had some trouble on the right front, but Paul Menard is really getting the job done on the track.
Now, during that conversation, we heard Ryan Truex talking about almost stalling the car, and the team telling him about the RPMs. Just listen now as he comes off pit road.
The pit crew making a great stop right here and comes down. He's ready to go here. You see, just stalled it. Fired it right back up, but man, that cost you a little bit of time, Doc.
And remember, he's just 18 years old. He's never been to this racetrack, only his second ever start in the series. And has a very, very steep learning curve. We mentioned that Mike Gricci is talking to him. We got Pat Tryson, who is the Cup crew chief for Martin Truex, talking to him. And maybe most importantly of all, we got his big brother and his hero, Martin Truex Jr., sitting on top of the pit box, being not only a driver coach, but a brother to help keep the young man calm and help him learn.
Well, one other thing, he's the 2009 NASCAR K&N Pro Series East champion. He currently leads the Pro Series East standings again this year.
Yeah, and I'll be on the driver's side here and a little in defense of Ryan Truex. They probably also talked to him about these are concrete pit boxes, and you can get a lot of bite. And you get those RPMs up too much, you can break an axle or a drive plate back there. So I'm sure he was just being cautious that first time. Still doing a great job on the racetrack.
And he's coming back on the 38, battling for position with Jason Leffler. He wants that third position back. There's second place, Paul Menard. They are 10 seconds behind race leader Brad Keselowski. He has checked out, at least for the moment.
Because if Brad had to do anything, making adjustments to his car, he came back out and just making some fantastic laps.
Vince, what's the latest?
Well, the 38 of Jason Leffler had been running about third throughout the early stages of this race, starting to slip back a little bit, and Jason just radioed in and said, I might have a right rear going down. It's starting to move around a lot in the back end. Said maybe a slow leak, so they're keeping an eye on it, trying to determine whether he should come into the pits. Dave?
And Vince, guys were wondering about the leader. They did make just a very slight air pressure adjustment. Brad saying that at the start of the run it was a little bit tighter, but the balance is okay. DJ, I think that little bit tighter at the start of a run means you can really go out and drive it, right?
Yeah, you got that right. And he's doing a great job of that, as he usually does.
And we heard a lot of these cars and drivers talking about how their car was going to the loose side from tight, and that's kind of different than the old car. The old car used to get tighter. This one, not so much. From the ones I heard, it looked to me like the cars were getting looser.
We've knocked 53 laps down. Kevin Harvick is the last car on the lead lap. He is 20th right now, 39 seconds behind.